Chosen one, why are you still awake? Why is your heart pounding right now at this unholy hour when the rest of your neighborhood is wrapped in darkness and sleep? Why did something inside your chest pull you to this exact message at this exact moment, like a divine magnet yanking you out of whatever you were doing? Let me tell you something that's going to wreck you. You didn't find this. Heaven sent it. Stop. Breathe. Feel that electric current running through your spine right now. That's not anxiety. That's recognition. Your spirit knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet, that the next 60 minutes are going to crack open your entire existence, and nothing will ever look the same again. Chosen one. If your eyes are on this message, heaven has drawn you. Not because you're lucky, not because the algorithm smiled on you, but because at this very second, while you're sitting there in your living room in Queens, or your kitchen in Brooklyn, or your bedroom upstairs where nobody knows you're crying, billions of dollars are moving through the spiritual realm with your name stamped on them. I know what you're thinking. Here we go again. Another preacher promising breakthrough while my bank account is laughing at me. But let me ask you something that's going to hit different. Why have you been feeling that divine restlessness, that gnawing ache in your gut that wakes you up at 2:47 a.m. and won't let you go back to sleep? Why does your spirit scream every single time the bills hit your mailbox? Yet somehow your faith refuses to die. You've given for decades, haven't you? Prayed for children who turned their backs, tithed through tears when you couldn't afford groceries, sowed seeds into churches that forgot your name, served people who never said thank you. And after all that faithfulness, after all those years of showing up when quitting would have been easier, lack still visits your doorstep like an unwanted relative who won't leave. Here's what's terrorizing the enemy right now. You're still standing. After everything hell threw at you, the bankruptcy in 2008, the hospital bills that buried you, the divorce that shattered your heart, the betrayal that crushed your trust, the diagnosis that stole your peace, you're still here, watching this message, with breath in your lungs and fire in your bones. That's not survival, that's supernatural. And tonight, heaven is about to show you why you had to endure every ounce of that agony. Because what's coming isn't just a blessing, it's a divine burst. An explosion of wealth so massive, so sudden, so undeniable, that everyone who ever doubted you, dismissed you, or deleted you from their life is about to witness what happens when God decides your waiting is over. If you know, and I mean know in your spirit, that this message has your name written all over it, type 777 right now. Not for luck, not for superstition, but as a declaration. God, I'm in agreement with what you're about to do. Before we dive deeper, let me pause and honor something beautiful. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're sowing seeds into a harvest that's going to feed millions of hungry souls across this country who feel abandoned, forgotten, and left behind. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message is already shaking something loose in your soul, go ahead and let heaven know you're ready. But listen to me carefully. This is not motivation. This is activation. Heaven has intercepted your scroll tonight because something ancient and eternal is about to collide with your timeline. The angels have been in position. The doors have been unlocked. The wealth has been released. And you, yes, you are about to step into a manifestation so powerful that your testimony alone will set captives free. The countdown has already begun. The shift is already happening. And by the time you reach the end of this message, you won't just believe in breakthrough, you'll be living in it. So settle in. Silence your phone. Close that other tab. Because what I'm about to pour into your spirit is going to leave you spiritually paralyzed, frozen in awe, unable to move until heaven finishes what it started. The billions are coming. The question is, are you ready to receive them? Do you know what God said to me last night while you were tossing and turning in that bed, worrying about how you're going to make it through another month? Do you know what heaven whispered while you were staring at that bank statement, wondering if you heard God wrong all those years ago? Do you know what the Almighty declared over your life while you were lying there in the dark, feeling like a fool for still believing? He said this: "The billions are already in motion. Not coming, not on their way, not someday when you finally get your act together. In motion. Right now, rushing toward you like a freight train barreling through the spiritual realm at a speed that would terrify you if you could see it with your natural eyes. But here's what's going to shatter everything you thought you knew about provision. These billions aren't for your boat. They're not for your vacation home in the Hamptons. They're not so you can flex on Instagram and prove to your ex-wife that you made it without her. These billions are kingdom infrastructure. Listen to me carefully. God doesn't release wealth so you can hoard it. He releases wealth so you can house it. Build hospitals in neighborhoods where mothers are choosing between medicine and groceries. Establish education centers in communities where kids believe prison is more likely than Princeton. Fund global missions that will reach nations you can't even pronounce. You've been thinking too small. You've been praying for enough. God's been preparing you for overflow. Isaiah 45:2 crashes into this moment like thunder. I will go before you and level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through bars of iron. You hear that? God isn't asking permission from your bank. He's not negotiating with your credit score. He's breaking down every barrier between you and the wealth he ordained for your assignment before you were born. And 2 Corinthians 9-8 seals it. God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. All things, all times. All that you need. That's not religious poetry, that's a divine contract with your name signed in the blood of Jesus. Think about Oprah Winfrey for a second. Grew up poor in Mississippi, abused, broken, overlooked. But God didn't give her $1 billion empire so she could buy more shoes. He gave it to her so she could build schools in South Africa, so she could fund scholarships, so she could become a voice for the voiceless. Tyler Perry, homeless, sleeping in his car, writing plays nobody wanted to produce. But when God released the wealth, it wasn't about Tyler. It was about creating jobs for thousands, building a studio that employs an entire community, funding programs that lift people out of poverty. You see the pattern. Wealth isn't the reward. Wealth is the resource. And you've been counting bills while God's been counting tears. Every tear you cried over that eviction notice. Every tear that fell when you had to tell your grandkids you couldn't help them with college. Every tear that soaked your pillow when you felt like a failure because you couldn't provide the way you wanted to. God kept every single one in a bottle, and now He's ready to repay them with interest. Heaven's treasury is cracked wide open tonight. But understand this, the currency isn't dollars. The currency is destiny, and your destiny has a price tag that would make Wall Street weep. If your spirit feels this stirring right now, if something inside your chest is screaming, yes, say it out loud where you're sitting. I'm ready for overflow. Because here's the revelation that's going to blow your mind. You were never meant to chase money. You were created to carry purpose so powerful that wealth has no choice but to chase you. So let me ask you one final question before we go deeper. Are you ready to stop begging for blessings and start building an empire? You want to know why it's taken so long? Why every door you knocked on slammed in your face? Why every promise God whispered in your prayer closet seems buried under decades of disappointment? Let me tell you something that's going to shatter your perspective forever. You thought the delay was denial. It was divine design. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. That waiting season you've been cursing, that wasn't God forgetting about you. That was God forging you. Every year you waited wasn't wasted time. It was preparation for a weight of glory your younger self could never have carried. Think about Joseph. 17 years old, dreaming dreams that made his brothers want to murder him. God showed him a throne, but between the dream and the crown, 13 years. 13 years in a pit. 13 years enslaved in Potiphar's house. 13 years rotting in an Egyptian prison for a crime he didn't commit. 13 years of silence. Can you imagine? Waking up every single morning on that cold stone floor, chains cutting into your wrists, wondering if God lied. Wondering if those dreams were just the delusions of an arrogant teenager. Wondering if you heard heaven wrong. But here's what Joseph couldn't see from inside that prison cell. Every day of delay was a day of development. God wasn't punishing him. God was preparing him to manage the economy of an entire empire. You don't put a teenager in charge of nations. You don't hand billion-dollar decisions to someone who's never suffered betrayal, never endured injustice, never learned to forgive when forgiveness feels impossible. The prison wasn't his punishment. The prison was his university. And beloved, I need you to hear this, especially those of you watching this right now who've got more years behind you than ahead. You think you're too old for what God promised. You think you've missed your window. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to deliver an entire nation. 80. Most people at 80 are thinking about retirement homes and early bird specials at the diner. Moses was about to outmaneuver the most powerful dictator on earth. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to Isaac, the child of promise that nations would spring from. 90. When most women her age were bouncing great-grandchildren on their knees, Sarah was in labor with her first son. Anna was 84 when she recognized baby Jesus in the temple, the Messiah everyone else walked right past. 84 years of fasting, praying, waiting in that temple. 84 years of people whispering, "Poor Anna, still waiting for something that's never going to happen." But when Jesus walked through those doors, she was the one, the only one, whose spiritual eyes were sharp enough to see him. Your age isn't your disqualification. Your age is your credential. You've buried friends. You've buried dreams. Some of you have buried spouses, children, businesses that once made you proud. You've watched your body slow down, your energy drain, your bank account shrink, and the enemy whispers, "It's over. You're too late." God's moved on to younger, stronger, sharper vessels. But what if I told you that every funeral you attended, every loss you endured, every night you cried yourself to sleep, wasn't emptying you, it was refining you? What if heaven has been watching your endurance like a jeweler watches a diamond under pressure, knowing that the longer you stay in the fire, the more valuable you become? Delay is the kiln where diamonds of destiny are fired. You weren't being rejected, beloved. You were being refined. And the reason it's taken so long is because what God is about to release through you is so astronomically massive that you needed every single year of that pressure to be strong enough to steward it. Here's the revelation that's going to wreck you tonight. You weren't waiting on God. God was waiting on you. He was waiting for your character to catch up to your calling. He was waiting for your mercy to mature into millions. He was waiting for your pain to transform into power so potent that when he finally opens the floodgates, you won't waste it, squander it, or hoard it. You'll pour it out on a generation that's dying of thirst. If you feel in your spirit right now that you haven't been rejected, that you've been refined, that every tear was liquid investment into a future you can't even imagine yet, type, "I'm still chosen." Because what I'm about to show you next is going to prove that your waiting wasn't in vain. It was the final preparation before the wealthiest chapter of your entire life explodes into existence. You thought your quiet house meant isolation. Heaven called it incubation. Listen to me, chosen one. Every silent morning you sat at that kitchen table in your Brooklyn apartment, staring at bills you couldn't pay, while everyone else's Facebook feed exploded with vacations and victories that wasn't abandonment. That was assignment. God wasn't ignoring you. He was installing something in you that can only be built in the dark. You know what terrifies me? How many of you have convinced yourselves that your hidden years were wasted years? That because nobody saw your sacrifice, it didn't count? That because your prayers seemed to bounce off heaven's ceiling, God wasn't listening? But what if I told you that caterpillars aren't buried, they're building wings? Moses spent 40 years in the desert of Midian. 40 years. tending sheep nobody cared about, in a place nobody visited, doing work nobody celebrated. He went from Prince of Egypt to forgotten shepherd, from palace luxury to wilderness poverty. And I guarantee you, there were nights Moses looked up at those stars and whispered, "God, did you forget my name?" But here's what Moses didn't know. Every single day he spent in that obscurity, heaven was downloading authority into his bones. Every lonely sunset was a classroom. Every rejected dream was preparation. Because you can't lead 2 million people out of slavery if you haven't first learned to be faithful with a handful of sheep. David, anointed as a teenager to be king, spent the next 15 years running for his life, living in caves, eating crumbs, hiding from a madman named Saul who wanted him dead. And somewhere in those cold, dark caves, I promise you, David cried out, "God, you called me king, but I'm living like a fugitive. What happened to your promise?" What David couldn't see was that every cave was shaping his character to match his crown. Every night of fear was building the faith of a giant killer. Every moment of betrayal was teaching him how to lead broken people with compassion instead of judgment. And then there's Anna, 84 years old, widowed after just 7 years of marriage. Spent the rest of her life in the temple praying, fasting, worshipping in silence while the world passed her by. No spotlight, no stage, no social media followers documenting her devotion. But when baby Jesus was brought to that temple, Anna was the first woman to recognize the Messiah. Why? Because God had been preparing her eyes for decades to see what everyone else would miss. Her age wasn't her limitation, it was her qualification. You see, beloved, heaven operates on divine economics that Wall Street will never understand. Your tears were deposits, and the interest has matured. Every midnight prayer you whispered when you couldn't sleep because worry was crushing your chest recorded. Every time you tithed when you didn't know how you'd eat that week banked. Every moment you chose faith over fear, hope over bitterness, praise over complaint, invested at compound eternal interest. And now heaven is about to cash out your account with interest rates that would make J.P. Morgan weep. Heaven owes you back pay for faithfulness in the fire. Say it aloud right now. I don't care who's in the room with you. My hidden years were not wasted, they were invested. Because what's coming next isn't just breakthrough, it's back pay with supernatural interest. And the enemy is terrified that you're about to discover what happens when God finally opens the vault he's been filling in your name. But here's the question that will determine everything. Now that you know your obscurity was actually your training ground, are you ready to step into the spotlight God's been preparing for you? Chosen one, I need you to look at your hands right now. Go ahead, look at them. Those same hands that have scraped together rent money. Those same hands that have held eviction notices. Those same hands that have prayed over empty bank accounts while the world told you to give up those hands are about to hold wealth that will rewrite your family's history for the next 100 years. Because what I'm about to reveal to you isn't theory. This isn't spiritual fantasy. This is the transfer, and it's happening whether you believe it or not. Joel 2:25 declares, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, not some of the years, not the easy years, all of them. 1997, when that business collapsed. 2008, when the economy swallowed your retirement. 2020, when the world shut down and your dreams went dark. God saw every single loss. He counted every stolen dollar. And tonight, heaven's accountant is issuing a refund with interest that would make Wall Street weep. But here's what's going to separate you from those who stay stuck. You have to understand that this transfer isn't wire to wire. It's heaven to hand. The river is rising, beloved. Not to drown you, but to deliver you. And if you don't position yourself correctly, you'll stand on the shore watching everyone else sail into abundance while you argue with God about whether you deserve it. Listen to me. Steve Harvey was homeless, sleeping in his car in Detroit, doing stand-up comedy for $27 a night. but he kept his faith vertical even when his bank account was horizontal. Today, multimillionaire, media mogul. Why? Because he aligned his actions with his anointing. He didn't just pray for provision, he moved when heaven said move. Dolly Parton grew up in a one-room cabin in the Smoky Mountains with 11 siblings. Dirt poor doesn't even begin to describe it. But that woman understood something most people miss. Your poverty is not your identity, it's your platform. Now she's worth over $600 million, and she's given away more money to education and literacy programs than most of us will ever see in 10 lifetimes. What did they have that you don't? Better luck? Wrong. Better alignment. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." You want to know why the money isn't flowing yet? Because your mind is still broke. You're praying for millions while thinking in pennies. You're asking for overflow while mentally preparing for more lack. Your mind is the gate. If the gate is rusty, nothing gets through. James 2:17 cuts even deeper. Faith without works is dead. You can't pray for a job and never fill out an application. You can't ask God for a business and never write the plan. You can't beg for breakthrough and stay on the couch, scrolling through other people's success stories. Heaven meets movement, not meditation. And Proverbs 4:23 warns us, "Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Who are you letting speak into your spirit? That cousin who said you'll never amount to anything. That ex who told you you're too old to start over. That voice in your head that keeps replaying every failure. Cut them off. John 15:5 seals it. Apart from me, you can do nothing. You want this transfer? Stay connected to the vine. Not just on Sunday. Not just when you're desperate. Daily. Because the billions that are coming require a foundation strong enough to carry them, and that foundation is Christ. So right now, and I mean right now, I need you to type in the comments, "I receive the transfer." Not as superstition, as synchronization. You're telling heaven, I'm in position, I'm aligned, I'm ready. Wire it through. Because, beloved, the countdown isn't starting, it's ending. And what comes next will require every ounce of faith you've got left. Are you ready to stop surviving and start reigning? Now listen to me very carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you is going to separate the believers from the builders, the dreamers from the deliverers. You've been praying for billions. You've been declaring breakthrough. But have you stopped just for 1 second to ask yourself the question that heaven has been whispering into your spirit for months? Why does God want to make you wealthy? Is it so you can finally take that cruise, upgrade from your Honda to a Mercedes, move out of your rent-controlled apartment in the Bronx and buy that brownstone in Brooklyn you've been eyeing? Let me wreck that fantasy right now. This blessing isn't for luxury, it's for legacy. Turn with me to Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. The parable of the talents. A master leaves his servants with different amounts of money. 2 servants invest and multiply. But the third servant, he buries his talent in the ground, he plays it safe. When the master returns, he praises the first 2. Well done, good and faithful servant. But to the third servant, the one who buried his blessing, the master says something that should terrify every person watching. You wicked and lazy servant. Wicked, not foolish. Wicked. Because hoarding what God gives you isn't just irresponsible, it's rebellion. It's taking heaven's investment and treating it like it's yours to sit on, when it was always meant to flow through you to the world dying around you. Here's the truth that's going to shatter everything. Money without mission is meaningless. Wealth without assignment is just decorated poverty. You can have $1 million in your account and still be bankrupt in your soul if you don't know why God put it there. Look around this country. Look at the billionaires with private jets and empty hearts. Look at the celebrities with mansions in the Hamptons and suicide notes in their diaries. Look at Wall Street executives with 7-figure bonuses and 0-figure purpose. They have money, but they don't have meaning. You are not called to comfort, chosen one. You are called to construction. You're not being blessed so you can retire early and play golf in Florida. You're being resourced so you can build for generations you'll never meet. Orphanages with your fingerprints on them. Ministries funded by your sacrifice. Young people pulled out of gangs because you opened a community center. Single mothers feeding their babies because you paid someone's rent without them ever knowing your name. The billions coming your way, they're not vacation money. They're bricks for kingdom infrastructure. Here's the question that's going to determine whether you're ready. If God could trust you with pain, can He trust you with provision? The same faithfulness you showed in the valley is the same faithfulness He's demanding on the mountaintop. You didn't curse God when you were broke. Don't abandon God when you're blessed. Heaven isn't giving you wealth to make you rich. It's giving you wealth to make you ready. Ready to carry the weight of answered prayers. Ready to steward the trust of a generation watching to see if Christians only preach generosity or actually practice it. Ready to stand before God and hear, "Well done," instead of, "What did you do with what I gave you?" You want to know your assignment. It's already written in your spirit. That burden you can't shake. That cause that makes you weep. That injustice that keeps you up at night. That community you keep driving past, wishing someone would do something. You're the someone. Right now, write it down. The assignment God has burned into your bones. The life you're going to lift. The legacy you're going to leave. Then declare it in the comments below. Because the angels aren't just watching, they're taking notes. So tell me, chosen one, are you ready to stop being blessed and start being a blessing? So here we are, beloved. At the end of this message, but the beginning of your manifestation, let me remind you of what heaven just downloaded into your spirit tonight. The billions aren't coming because you're perfect. They're coming because you're prepared. You've been tested in the valley. You've been refined in the fire. And now God is about to prove to heaven, earth, and hell itself that faithfulness always leads to fruitfulness. Remember this: wealth without mission is meaningless. You're not being blessed to hoard, you're being resourced to build. Those billions flowing toward you, they're bricks for kingdom infrastructure. They're tools for generational transformation. They're proof that when God finds someone He can trust with pain, He can trust them with provision. But I need you to hear something that's going to anchor your soul. You are not walking this journey alone. Even when the breakthrough seems delayed, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the Creator of the universe is working behind the scenes on your behalf. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, orchestrating blessings you can't even imagine. And right here, in this community, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your struggles, believe in your calling, and are ready to stand with you in prayer. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family united by faith, bound together by the love of Christ. So let me ask you one final question. Now that you know your assignment, now that you know why the billions are coming, what are you going to do tomorrow morning when you wake up? Before you answer, let me pray over you. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed until this very moment. Lord, you see their hearts. You know their secret tears. You've counted every prayer they've whispered in the dark. And tonight, God, I'm asking you to place your mighty hand upon their shoulders and let them feel your presence like never before. Father, open every door that man has closed. Heal every wound that time hasn't touched. Release the billions that hell has been blocking. Give them courage to step into their assignment, wisdom to steward their blessing, and faith to trust your timing, even when they can't see the full picture. God, silence every voice of doubt. Break every chain of financial fear. Destroy every generational curse of poverty. And let this be the night, the very night that everything changes. Let them wake up tomorrow not as survivors, but as kingdom builders. Not as beggars, but as blessed distributors of your abundance. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray. Amen. Now, beloved, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, declare your assignment. Share what God is calling you to build with the wealth that's coming. Let this community surround you with prayer and encouragement. And if this message has touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight, someone who's struggling with the same doubts, the same fears, the same questions. Remind them they're not alone. Thank you for watching until the very end. Your faithfulness to stay tells me everything I need to know about your heart. You're ready for what God has prepared. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Every week, we're releasing messages specifically designed to encourage, equip, and empower God's chosen ones. The billions are coming. Your assignment is waiting. And the God who called you is faithful to complete what He started. Until we meet again, walk in authority, rest in His love, and know your best days aren't behind you. They're just beginning.